What's happening, people? Back with another reaction, back with some more Strung Out. And we're going back to Twisted by Design, 1998. And the next tune is Reason to Believe. I don't remember it by name. Again, I did have this album back in the day, so as we go through it, it will continue to be a possibility that tunes will at least trigger my memory sonically, if not lyrically. But yeah, Reason to Believe, it sounds like, a motivating impetus, something to give you a vision of what you're supposed to be doing, something that, lets you buy into whether it's, a religious group or a cultural paradigm or a national, ethos or whatever. It basically speaks to the underlying motivation for action. And if it's, a reason to believe, it's the idea that you latch onto it. And, it may or may not turn out to be true, but supposedly it gives you an anchor and it gives you a roadmap for how to, interact with the world. So I don't know if that'll have anything to do with it. And again, I don't remember it by name, but let's listen. This is Strung Out. The tune is Reason to Believe, and it's from the 1998 album Twisted by Design. I remember this intro anyway. I remember that.
Reason to believe in anything. I never had a cause that I can fight for. I never had too much of anything to call my own. A drunk mother and a father I for.
But the absence of one.
All my life I grew up watching on the streets come true, and now I wait for my days in the sun. Every day I work trying to cut mother, and I realized that there wasn't ever gonna come. Right now, lost time, soul's got a river, got no hope to walk the rise. Die down, die green. Cut myself into what everything is nothing real. This is something that I feel so
volcano of a tune. It's interesting, we've heard songs a lot faster than that by them, although there were parts of this where it went into double time. But the main tempo of this track, we've heard them play a lot faster, but this might be one of the hardest tunes we've heard by them so far. It really had a heavy intensity to it, and that solo section went into quasi metal mode. That was as close to metal as I've heard punk rock. So yeah, I really did enjoy the surprise sonic atmosphere of this one, and not necessarily surprising. I know they've had, sonic sounds in previous albums that are, that sort of hard melodic, punk rock, where it's, some people say it's like a metal style punk rock. So it's not entirely surprising, but I was not prepared for it on an album that I remembered having. So like I said, that very opening, it did sound familiar to me, but that maybe suggests that it was oh, this one's a little slower, maybe I'll skip past it, which again, I realized the teenage me was ignorant in that way, but either way, the rest of the song did not sound familiar. What I caught from the lyrics sounds like he's saying, my generation, we don't even have a reason to believe. No unifying war, no national mythos that stands up to scrutiny, no religious movement that compels me. We don't have a reason to believe. We don't have the anchor that supposedly has been laid out before us, and that we were told about in this template that has been described. So it sounds like there's a bit of jaded attitude to the song. It sounds like it's, again, for like an entire generation, there's no reason to buy in. There's no reason to believe and be part of something that, manifestly or like transparently seems to not reflect reality. So, again, I like thinking about these, what I did catch before I go read the lyrics. But yeah, ultimately a cool and very heavy tune, and one that, it's interesting to me. Like I said, I had this album back in the day, but I would have been very interested by this had I listened to the whole thing. So anyway, let's look at the lyrics, which I always do this, but I don't actually have it out, so 1 second. Okay, never had a reason to believe in anything. I never had a cause that I could fight for. I never had too much of anything to call my own. A drunk mother and father of 4. All my life I grew up watching others' dreams come true and how I waited for my day in the sun. Every day I worked harder and I got further in debt till I realized that day was never gonna come. Your written off lost cause sold us down the river, got no hope to offer us, tore down without grief. What's a generation without a reason to believe? They tore down all my walls, and then they made all my hatred a crime. Debilitating us with all their complacency, our thoughts become mundane, our generation thinks the same, our minds anesthetized is a funny word to say, by apathetic TV. That's a theme they seem to keep coming back to. The idea that TV is sort of, mind-numbing and doesn't really provide you with anything other than like temporary distraction / relief. Of no real substance. So yeah, they seem to keep coming back to that. But no wars to fight, steel bridges won't burn. The belief we uphold are lies we never learn. The only hope for the future leaves us reason to grieve. What's a generation without a reason to believe? So yeah, I think in broad strokes it was doing what I thought it was doing. There was some more specific stuff in there, like the shot at apathetic TV that I didn't hear. But yeah, ultimately it seems to be getting at that idea that, and like it makes me think of that speech in Fight Club, like we're history's forgotten people, man. We have no great war, we have no great religion, like I forget the exact, I'm sure many of you know the monologue I'm talking about, but it's when he's like giving a rationale for why they've sort of gravitated around this very bizarre and seemingly nihilistic Fight Club. And it's the idea that like we have no anchors, like we have no common purpose, we have no like national mythology that we all accept and buy into, even maybe it's not always true all the time. We have none of that. We're sort of anchorless, and we're looking for something that really gets at the essence of what it is to feel. And for them, it's this sort of violent cathartic release of all this pent up, modern industrial state claustrophobia. So it felt like there was some of that here as well. And yeah, it is cool. The more I learn about their lyrics, like, I mentioned before, going into it, I knew that they had some conceptual lyrics, Too Close to See, the one song that I really remembered well. That has some really great sort of philosophical takes, but they obviously, they write about society, they write about politics, they write about psychology. So there's a lot of cool stuff in their songwriting, the more I come to learn. So once again, shout out to Paulie. Do let me know what you think of this one. The next time we come back will be Crossroads, which makes me think of Robert Johnson. And if you don't know who he is, look it up. But I will see you next time. Peace.